the depth of thought that they have in normal social interactions.
Totally.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, like what will actually open someone up to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to this book. Um, it's called Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards,
Mm-hmm.
and she studies like people's mannerisms to understand what causes charisma and what keeps it away. Like, how do you be confident? How do you be warm? How do you build relationships? And she talks about all these little mannerisms that people do. So she said like head tilts will actually make you more warm looking, or like showing your palms. She said whenever you show your palm, that's a sign that you're a friend. So whenever you hold your fist, that's like a sign of an enemy. People wonder what's in your hand. Why are you clenched up?
Interesting.
It's so fascinating. Yeah.
Right. Why high fives are a sign of friendship. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
high
That's
five.
like
Yeah.
yeah. Really cool. Yeah.
What do you guys want to pray?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. One of you guys want to lead us?
Sure. Lord, thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and spend time in each other's company, also in yours. Please give this conversation wisdom so that we might share a hint of yourself with each other that will then bloom into something truly insightful. Amen.
Amen. Be seed of wisdom.
Can you swing that mic so you don't need it to be in your face, but you do need it
How
to
about
be.
this?
Yeah,
No,
you
should be
should be able to
perfect
swing.
size.
Yeah, you should be able to. And if yeah, if you just scoot your chair, you should be able to get a little bit more in front of it. So then good on camera angle. Yeah, nice.
Well,
Hope Schneir,
hey,
welcome.
thank you.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Maybe, yeah. So I know you're trying to get Justin on the podcast, and then he was so busy, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. You have been thinking a lot about simplicity.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
It's hard to figure out what to say about that because I'm still just like exploring it a ton, but just trying to, it happened. So I just recently gave birth to our 10th child, Georgia.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And giving birth, okay, so Father David here at the Byzantine church said something so beautiful that when a priest goes into the Holy of Holies, he's like, he's touching God and he has access to God in this very particular way. And he said a woman experience, or the veil is torn. And he said a woman experiences that when she gives birth. And when he said that, I was like, oh man, yes, it's happened to me every single time. And I had never I never heard anyone say that, especially coming from a man. But I was like ready for it this time. And just, yeah, that veil being torn was so epic, which it always is. But I feel like the lesson that he's giving me right now is to be, but life slows down a lot when you have a baby, and all of your ideas and projects and things that you're working on, everything kind of has to be pushed aside for this new life. And really just trying to lean into the presence of God that is before you, that you don't need to, listen to the Hallow app in order to have a relationship with God. And you don't need to yeah, be reading something or meditating on something really profound, that it's just like acknowledging the presence of God and being, and how simple he is in his essence, and how, yeah, just, those little moments of like being in my bedroom with my nursing baby and just having it be quiet and just letting God be there when, and sometimes we experience him with our senses like that, and I can feel that. But I think more as we age, or as we, maybe not age is the wrong word, but mature in our spiritual life, the senses are deafened to the Lord appropriately. And having to lean into the presence of the Lord beyond our senses So I've been really thinking about like, or just praying to God, like, let me go deeper and go beyond my senses, which is, and it's not, you can call it like dark night of the soul or spiritual aridity, but I think actually those things are, they have a negative connotation. And I actually think I'm actually excited about the lack of sense because I know that that's like, it's kind of exciting. Like if we're just limited to our sensual experience, it's, that's all we have. But if we can actually push that and then supersede that, that's actually a true spiritual life, right?
Mm.
So,
You mean something beyond stimulation of our senses?
sure,
Okay.
sure. Or just like, we have a priest friend, Father Michael O'Loughlin. It's so sweet. He's like, I've always been in a state of consolation. I'm never in desolation. He's like, it's just the way I am. Like God's just been so good to me. And I feel like that has been not entirely true for me, but like almost true for me that God has been really nice to me that I haven't had to like grasp and be like, where are you, God? I haven't had a lot of that in my life. But um, but I feel like he's quieter right now. And that intimacy with God is not as obvious even to the senses of my heart. And maybe it's simulation is, yeah, just like the senses or spiritual sense. Like we all have a spiritual sense, right? But like even when your spiritual senses are deadened, it's actually kind of awesome because you get to you get to go deeper. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to think if it maps onto experiences of my own. I'm not sure. Can you say more about how you think that as we mature, our physical senses become uh, more calloused to
No, I'm
the
not talking about
Lord?
physical senses. I mean, what do
Okay.
you mean by let's define this? Because are you saying when you say physical senses, what are you talking about?
Oh, simple. Our eyes, our
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
taste,
Yeah, yeah,
touch.
that's what I'm assuming. Yeah,
I think it's really quite wonderful that a uh, a child can see a bubble and just get so excited about a
totally,
bubble.
totally, totally.
And that is something that passes away with time.
Yeah,
And so when you said that, that's what immediately went through my head
yeah.
is the passing away of the stimulation provided by simple sensual experiences.
Right, but you can see an icon, you can see a sunset, you can see someone, you can see beauty around you, right?
Mm.
But it's the spiritual sense that links that to God
Mm.
and acknowledges that like I feel close to God right now.
Okay.
Like this is becoming a conduit to my relationship with God because my spiritual senses are awakened, right?
Hmm.
There are plenty of pagans that can see and taste and touch. It's not about your physical senses being stimulated or awakened. It's about your spiritual sense connecting with that, right? But then, and I'm
So
talking more about the spiritual sense.
okay,
When you're, yeah, go ahead.
so what when you say spiritual sense, you mean that attunement or sensitivity to
Yeah.
things beyond
Yeah. Like being
beyond
able
our
to,
vision, being a term for all of our physical senses.
yes, yes. Like the motions of the Holy Spirit, remembering that the Lord is present, like feeling Him walk with you through the day,
Hmm.
those sorts of things. And it's not that, and maybe it's not that like our senses are deadened. Maybe that's wrong. I'm still exploring this, but like it's more that God asks you to lean less on that as you spiritually mature. It's,
Uh-huh.
like, okay, I've given you a lot of warm feelings and close feelings to me. And now you're just going to show up and you're going to be, and you're going to believe that I'm still here, but I'm going to be quieter, and I think that's like a natural progression of spiritual maturity, or at least, and we have, it ebbs and flows, of course, but
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of delighting in that. I'm kind of delighting in like the quiet relationship I have with God right now, if that makes sense.
Is it kind of like a Saint Augustine type of communion? Because he would talk about like, it seems like he thinks about God as if like he's moaning. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's
Mm-hmm.
it's like a weird description that a lot of saints use, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like they're not really thinking, they're not really talking.
Mm-hmm.
They almost just like feel what they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to say, like inside of you.
Yeah, so I'm I've had years of that actually, which has been, I'm just kind of getting deep, but I'm going there. I've had years of that, like deep longing that kind of hurts for God. And I've been like so grateful for it. I call it like it's a wound. It's like a wounded heart that you're longing for God. And whenever I have it, it hurts. Whenever I don't have it, I wish it was there.
Mm,
But then, but right now I don't have it. And I actually kind of feel peace about it too. I don't, instead of wishing it was there, I feel like I don't know. Like it just to it's simple. It's just to be and to know that God is there
mm-hmm.
without even the feelings of like, oh, my heart is longing for God. I'm so hungry for God. And that's even
Or
like,
I have like the burning of the heart
yeah,
or
like I don't
the
have
other.
that. And it's almost cool. Like it's almost like it's I'm just trying to appreciate what it is right now
Sure.
without wanting it to be the way it was. And almost like,
But you're particularly saying that the way it was not this super consoling sense of, oh, wow, I feel like God is right here, right now. It was more like what you were describing was this sense of the God that I really, truly love is waiting for me and I'm waiting for him. Like there is an
mm-hmm,
element of separation.
mm-hmm, yeah.
And that apartness is actually has been very acute. That sense that your sensitivity to the apartness has been very acute.
Mm-hmm,
And you're saying
mm-hmm.
right now it's not as acute. Is that,
Mm-hmm.
am I
Yeah,
tracking?
yeah, I think so. I'm trying to like, I always feel like like it's kind of, it's like, forgive me, but this is just the word I like for it. It's kind of sexy. Like this
Mm.
sort of like, uh, I'm hiding, but I'm here and you want me and I want you. But like this sort of like, I mean, that's pretty sweet. But almost when you're married and there's this sense of like peace of we're just here and we just love each other without all of the like angst.
Of romance, of the
Yeah,
chase.
yeah, of the chase, I guess. Yeah, of the longing and of um, I don't know. It's like it's a new phase for me, and maybe it'll go back around like the wheel does, you know. But and I think it's a I delighted so much in journaling and like reading the mystics and like really fueling this like deep longing that I had. And right now there's not really and time and adoration daily and just like can't wait to get back to that, you know? And right now that's not what I'm called to do right now. And so there's a privation there or it can feel like it.
Hmm.
But actually no, this is what I'm called to do right now is to live in a more simple place with the Lord
mm-hmm.
on a daily basis and still show up and receive and but be okay with that dynamic.
Hmm.
Sorry, this is kind of deep and we kind of
No, we jumped right into it. That's
dove
the only
into
way. That's
this.
the
I
only
know,
way to go after it.
I know.
Yes.
Um, no, but it's good.
Okay, but this is a very interesting, but it seems somewhat double-sided experience that you're describing in that throughout much of your life, it seems that you're saying that you've had this experience of the romance of
Mm-hmm.
the Lord, of that you feel the love, you are loving towards Him,
Mm-hmm.
but it's romantic in the sense that there's this gap that you're trying to bridge,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you've actually, in a certain way, loved that as well, that
Mm-hmm.
there is a sense of the chase.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there's this woundedness in it, in the sense that there's this separation, despite that, it's been it's been very real, very present, very knowable to you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, whatever it is that you are going through as a season, it's more, it's whatever it is more subtle.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Totally. That's well said. Yeah,
Whoa.
in my 30s, I felt like, how old are you?
36.
36. How old are you? You're 20,
26.
26. I feel like it hit me in my 30s where I was like, I have the perfect life. I have the perfect life. I have like a beautiful home and I have an amazing husband who's, so good and saintly and like works so hard and loves me so much, is so adoring. And I have all these awesome children and my life is so full. I have these incredible friends. Like, I don't know anyone whose life is better than mine, but I still felt like, and this is the St. Augustine thing, I've still felt a sense of dissatisfaction of I have everything and I still am hungry. And that was a gift because I really was able to like lean in. That's when the longing kind of hit me more of like, okay, there's just this deep longing for something more and it's our Lord, of course. And I was able to really lean into that kind of romance, which was it is cool because I remember like when I was a kid, and you still see these around, but like I feel like when I was a kid, I would see them more like these trashy novels with like a man, like a woman, like a woman like with her neck outstretched, and like a man like with her like breathing on her neck, and it was like some trashy romance novel that you'd see around, and that like middle-aged women would read. And now I look back on that, I'm like, oh, middle-aged women would read that stuff because they were feeling that longing for something more. Even if you have the romance, even if you have everything else, at one point you're desperate for that kind of that divine encounter. That is a sexy encounter. I'm sorry, I can't get away from that word, but it just is. Like you're desiring that because that's what we're meant. That's what we're made for, right? Man and woman, and and that's what a lot of this mystics kind of penetrated that. And I'm so curious and interested in that, and I have been. But right now, I actually feel called out of that, and I feel like, and that's the cool thing about journeying with God is you just knowing that He's in every phase and being willing to go forward in a relationship with Him, and not just kind of cling. I remember, I love this story of Saint Catherine of Siena. She was praying. She felt called to like be monastic in her own home, and so she was living under the stairs. Do you guys know this story about her? She was living under the stairs praying, and her family life, busy family life, is going on above and around her, but she's like in this little closet under the stairs praying and eating and basically just in communion with God. And he gives her a ring that no one else can see, and it's really beautiful and romantic. But then he calls her out from under the stairs and to go serve her family, and then later to serve her city, and then to serve the world and the church. But she doesn't want to leave, and she's like, I don't want to go. I want to stay.
Mm.
And he says to her, "You can stay under the stairs if you want to, Catherine, but I'm not going to be here." Which is like
Mm.
so good, you know?
Yeah, that's really good.
I know,
Do
so
you think
good.
that was similar to the transfiguration experience of
Totally,
the disciples?
yeah. When you get it, you want to stay, but God's like, no, you gotta. I have something else for you. And for me right now, that's just simplicity. It's like get away from is it the eros? We're not doing that right now. We're going into the like, is eros the right? I'm not very Latin person, so the for
If by
love.
eros you mean romantic love, that would
Yes,
certainly be the closest.
yes, you're right, but it's romantic love for God, so that's agape, right? I don't know what is agape the romantic love or just love for God? Which one is? Come on, give me a quick little lesson on the four loves.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Eros is what we've always described as romantic love in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of the pursued and the pursuer. But
Right.
agape would probably be described as the self-giving love,
Mm-hmm.
the the self oh, uh the love of self-obliteration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the love of Calvary,
Yeah.
the love displayed at Calvary.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think it's like progressing and being willing to progress.
Hmm. Yes, and I don't think any of the experiences of love should be poo-pooed in favor of another,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Right? To have that experience that C.S. Lewis calls like the greatest romance,
Hmm.
right? Or what is, I think, to some degree referenced in the poem "The Hound of Heaven," right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, I'm being pursued by the Lord,
Totally.
right? And then, like I said, Lewis uses the word romance, the greatest romance,
Hmm.
to find him, um, and that's good.
Yeah, but
But
that,
then,
yeah, and that almost seems like that's the end, like that's the point, and then there shouldn't be anything beyond that. And but I also feel like I'm not supposed to stay there right now. If that, it's just, I don't know.
I think the saints would say that in the moment that you are pursuing, or when you're in the moment of one type of love,
Yeah,
it does feel like everything.
yeah.
And then, like you were saying, you are called to the next stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right. When you're under the staircase, you are satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
but then you're called to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or in the transfiguration, right? The disciples clearly experienced something truly
Yes.
moving, and there was a reason they wanted to stay,
Yeah.
right?
Like this doesn't get any better than this. Like this
Right.
should be the end. Now
Yeah.
we can die.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
you can't. Now you don't die, and you actually have to go and leave this.
Right. But I think the same thing can be said of just the love of friendship, that
Mm-hmm.
discovery that someone else shares the same concern that you
Mm-hmm.
have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why we came up with the term bromance was because we were trying to figure out why some guys in a completely non-sexual relationship can just feel like, oh my gosh, here I finally have found
Yeah.
that kindred spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of ours, Philip Chavez, he talks about masculine identity and spirituality is really genius. But he shares that David, of the women he loved, he never loved anyone as much as he loved Jonathan.
Hmm.
And he says that like the bromance thing is very powerful for a man and for certain men in particular, that it can almost supersede, female love, which is interesting.
Yeah. Rare, but real.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I feel like the glimpses of that are what keep men together in battle
Totally.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's that idea of you always have your brother's back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's you would take the bullet for your brother before
Mm-hmm.
he had it. But that's the very thing I think that allows men to actually love their wives so much.
Totally.
Because it's like they're choosing what's best and going out in the chaos to like make some order so then their wives can live in an order.
Totally.
But they know that they can only confront that chaos with other brothers that
Yeah.
are willing to confront it.
Totally. And you see like a modern, so my Justin and I went to Franciscan University and our kids go there now and they have households. Are you familiar with that? It's like a fraternity sorority, but they are devoted, they have a different spiritual charism, each of them do. And they have different traditions and practices and rites of initiation. And they're really amazing. But I watched one, so Andrew Laubacher, who I know you've had on this podcast too, he was in one called AMDG, and my boys are in that one. But watching them experience like the brotherhood that they have with that community, it totally matured them in the most beautiful way, and they were so hungry for it. And I think it's just what you're saying, Tom, that like they need. Um, it's not a that's not a place to stay either. It's a place to be formed, and to be strengthened, to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, the men that stay there, like it corrupts them after a while.
Yeah.
That's all they want,
Yeah.
and then it's like then you seem like they lose part of themselves.
Yeah.
It's like they only find themselves in contention,
Hmm.
but there's no peace inside of them. So then it kind of like devolves.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind
So,
of like the Sparta versus Athens,
okay.
because like Sparta was like all war,
Yeah.
and their domestic lives were terrible.
Hmm.
And then Athens was like a little much too domestic, but good in war. But then, yeah,
Hmm.
kind of like finding a harmony between those two things,
Hmm.
which is kind of difficult.
Totally. I know that's interesting. Even thinking about vocation, how, you know, finding a vocation or personal, even your personal vocation, which I think is not, I shouldn't say even your personal vocation. That's sort of the point beyond typical vocation, but, or state in life. But the crisis of vocation, not that we don't have enough priests or married people, but the crisis of vocation, meaning like you're a young person's search for meaning and understanding their meaning that God is the mission, the particular mission that God has given them to do, which is truly just to be themselves in the world in Christ. But how does that look? And how does my experience of that differ from yours, you know? And it does. But it's like kind of what you're saying that like, yeah, combining the two, Sparta and Athens, but also just not using the tools that you receive from that community
Hmm.
for the sake of a greater mission, which is, I think, it's necessary to human thriving. You know, when you feel like, okay, I have this gift or this mission that's given to me by God, and it might not be to like start a religious order or even join a religious order. It might be to be the best realtor in Lander and be present to my community, like, but do it in my own Jonathan way, or like start this cool Catholic
Empire.
empire. Yeah,
There
totally.
There we go.
But like that God calling you to that, and that's particular to you. And there's no one else I've met who said that, you know.
That reminds me of something. I just finished listening to Jordan Peterson's new book, We Who Wrestle with God.
Mm,
So good. So good. Um, but one of the points he was emphasizing in there was he speaks about God as the different spirits, like the spirit of adventure, the spirit of
mm,
order, the spirit of all these different things that move people. So he's like, God is the primary mover. So
mm-hmm,
how does he move people to a new way of life? So God was the spirit of adventure to Abraham. And so he's like, Abraham's kind of like the ultimate failure to launch, like staying in the tent
mm.
till 70,
Totally,
not
totally.
figuring things out, just hanging around. And then God like calls him this great adventure and he accepts.
Yeah.
And it was like that's what allowed him to become the father of all nations is because he accepted the call to that
Mm-hmm,
place of danger.
mm-hmm,
And so he kind of culminated it all at the end with saying, we're supposed to fill the void.
mm,
So as Christ is the logos that comes into the void and
mm,
creates creation,
mm,
we as sub-creators of him and Christians are supposed to be filling those little voids in this world. Because there's limitless potential what can be,
mm.
and we're the ones that can fulfill that. That's really poetic.
Totally. And embodying this spirit, I've seen this before where like certain people, it seems like they have to, and it kind of kills me. It's something I'm wrestling with God about, but like certain people, it seems like they have to embody almost like the sorrowful mysteries. Like
Oh.
they're a living icon of the sorrowful mysteries.
Mm.
And they just, and they have to do that. And then some of us get to be like, I feel like I get to be the living icon of the joyful mysteries. Like everything, my life has been really wonderful and I'm really grateful. And who knows what's coming? It could flip any day. But why do I get to have these blessings? And why does that person have so many crosses in Christ, both in Christ, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Do you think there's a bit of a slant in some circles that deep down believes that if you're not living out the sorrowful mysteries, you're not really growing in holiness?
is that your experience?
I don't know.
Definitely seen it.
You have?
Yeah, I'm wondering if some people like really deep down believe, well, if you're not suffering, you're
Okay.
probably not becoming holier.
Okay, interesting. Well, I kind of see it a little bit with, I hate to, I want to be careful with my words here because everyone's so different. And what I'm trying to say with that too is like this embodiment of the spirit of adventure. Like there's so many facets to God and there's so many spirits of like kind of what you're saying within God. And we get to reflect a certain facet or a certain part of God. Like you show the world something about God that the world has never seen before. You know, like you're showing me something about God that I have never seen and that no one has ever seen. Like that's your mission. Truly, beyond being a realtor and beyond being like a brother and a son and all those other things, you're supposed to show the world a part of God, right? And so maybe what you're saying, well, I don't want to say that, like, I don't know what their part of God that they're supposed to show the world is. So maybe there's that that's just what they're supposed to show the world. But sometimes there might be this sense of, I don't know, like my kids play this game, Sweet and Sour, where they like wave out the window at someone. And then like if the person waves back, they're like sweet. And if the person just like looks side, like a little side eye and
Grump
like,
face.
yeah, and they're like sour, like you sort of see what people's reaction is. And sometimes I even just smile at people and I notice that they don't smile back. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking sour, but I don't mean to think that.
So what's your running count?
Yeah. No, I don't really count. My point is
All
like
right, we're getting you back here in 2 weeks. We want to know what the count is.
Inlander. But some people, I think maybe like spiritual piety, they equate with like, and there's a somberness to the mysteries of God, like the solemnity. There's a solemnness, not somberness, but solemnness that is due, but then there's also like, we're supposed to be joyful and we're supposed to see Christ in one another. And so, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not inside their head, so I don't know what's going on in their minds. But sometimes I do see like people who are living very serious spiritual lives also tending to be very serious people, which maybe that's their calling. Does it evangelize? Not really, but maybe they're not supposed to be the evangelists. Maybe they're just supposed to be the people at the foot of the cross all the time. I don't know.
When you say they're serious people, you're not saying that they're convicted about their mission. That's not what you mean by serious. You mean they tend to be a little bit humorless.
Yeah. Yeah. So we named our baby Georgia, and her name is Pierre Georgia. And we named her after, obviously, Pierre Georgia Frassati. And I was listening to this little thing on him, and it was a sweet little anecdote, but his mother was worried that he was able to receive communion daily during a time when that wasn't the norm. And he got special permission from the order in order to do that, from the order that was in charge of his school. And his mother, and they had to ask permission from the mom first. And the mom was less spiritual and less serious about her faith. And she said, I'm concerned that he will become one of those overly pious people, and she was worried about that. And he said, and the priest said to her in return, I know those people of which you speak, but none of them have the joy of Giorgio. And he will never become what you're worried about because he has effervescent joy. And that's the type of saint that we all like hail and inspire to be. I mean, that's the type of saint that evangelizes.
People say, oh my gosh, what does he have?
Yeah.
Because I want a piece of it.
Yeah. At the same time, joy is an interesting thing, kind of like simplicity. You can't, I think about it and I wonder about it, and you see it, and when you see it, you know it. But it seems like it's also a gift, and because it's not something that you put on either, It's like, I think there's a certain sense of like trying to be happy and trying to smile, and like there's an effort there, but you don't want, I get the sense with Pier Giorgio Frassati that it was just who he was. It was just a gift given by God, you know?
How would you counsel someone who has not, at least apparently, been given that?
What do you mean? How would I count for that? Or
No. How would you counsel someone?
how would I counsel
Someone
someone?
came to you and said, Hope, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just have a more dour personality.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
And my interior atmosphere is not necessarily all that bright.
yeah. I would tell them to fake it till you make it.
You would.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think that if you're, I mean, obviously you're not going to, a melancholic is not just going to become a sanguine just out of sheer will.
But a choleric will be.
That's hilarious. Um, but there is this sense of like, okay, what is appropriate for like human society, for the health of society? You know, and a dour personality is not, I'm just thinking about a family, which is the microcosm of society, right? And if I have a person in my family that's just grumpy, you're kind of like, hey, snap out of it. Like, go in your room and when come back out when you can put a smile on your face and be a pleasant person to be around. You know, like that's called being in a community and being in a family,
Okay.
you know, and there's a little bit of like, and we all have to do that. We all have to dig deep. I mean, I'm sure you deal with clients that you're like, oh man, this is tough.
Get me out of here.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you got to keep smiling and just keep like being nice and pouring the love. And then I've seen it happen. What was I'm trying to remember my recent example of this. I was so proud of myself. Um, somebody was, I can't remember the example now. Shoot. Somebody was being really annoying, and I just decided to be really, really obnoxiously nice back. And oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't share this. I'll share what I can. So I was in,
Are you kidding? Name names.
I know. I'm safe. I think I'm safe. Someone was mad at me because I was holding up the line for confession because I was trying to get my kid in, and she had a fear of confession, and I was trying to sneak her in, and just so she could talk to the priest. I had talked to the priest for longer than I should have, and then I said, you know, my daughter is a little scared, and he said, well, just send her in, and just she can just talk to me. And I said, okay, great. So then I kind of snuck her in after me, right after I had taken too long. And the person, I had someone complain to me. They're just like, they were ticked off and they were annoyed at me. And I decided to just like go up, and it was really awkward. And I decided to go up to him and just be like, I'm so sorry. I just want to explain to you what happened. Like, I'm really sorry I held up the line. It's totally my fault. You know, I got here late and then I was in there for too long. And then my daughter has this fear and blah, blah, blah. And then right away, he just was like, oh, no, 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 you're fine. You're totally fine. This is a good and holy man, too. He's like, you're totally fine. I just called him on a bad day. And then, like, a week later, he saw me and he just warmly apologized. He was so sweet. He was so sweet. He could not have been any humbler or any sweeter. But I was like really happy because I didn't want to interact with him after that moment. I wanted to just like walk away and be kind of pissed in my car at him. But instead I like just decided to just go up to him and confront him and be nice and sweet and explain. And it went so well. And I was like, this is the whole like pouring hot coals on their head. Like this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be warm when we don't want to be warm. You know, and we have to dig deep for that. And then there's so many good benefits that come from that, you know? Anyway,
Yeah, there's a lot to be said to that. I mean, um, I heard this more in a business context, but there's a guy I follow, and I'm actually familiar with him, Alex Hormozy. I don't know if you've heard of that name. He's a young guy, um, like mid-30s, runs a really successful business. But he said he was at the Michelin restaurant once,
yeah.
and he had been looking forward to it with all of his friends. He said they were the one table they forgot about. So like they didn't get their food for like 3 hours, and they're
Shoot.
just sitting
Yeah.
there, and he was about like, I'm never coming back. Well, the manager found out that they hadn't been served and comes by and he's like, "Man, I am so sorry." He's like, "I this would never happen. The lady, this is her first night here. She was so overstressed. Like, take it all on me." He's like, I'm gonna give a full refund, and he's like, "Here's all the food, extra, like, and I'm gonna move your room to the suite, like everything."
Yes.
Well, so Alex was like, "Man, this is crazy." And then after that, he's
He
like,
was the waiter. He was the one that forgot. Or no, who is?
it was a woman that forgot
Okay.
Alex and his friends, and
Okay.
the
Okay. He's
manager.
one of the. Alex is the guy at the table.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
So he's the successful entrepreneur. The manager is, I think we'll call him like Joey. Joey's like over apologizing for him, ups his room. He's like, "Look, if you ever come back here, like just hit me up and just I'll take care of you guys." So Alex is like, "Okay." Comes back And this guy's like, okay, cool. How long are you going to be here? What's your trip looking like? He planned out reservations at all these restaurants, completely planned the entire trip for Alex. And Alex was like,
This is
now
amazing.
this is Michelin.
Yeah.
And he said from now on, like they are like best friends and buds and they do all these things. But he's like, if he said if you make your mistake bigger than the person's in their mind and try to make up for that, they'll be the ones to say, oh, I overreacted.
Mm.
So he says you elevate the problem to an extreme level, and then they'll be like, oh wait, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, you basically complained because it was a 3, and they act like it was an 8,
Yeah, and they're
and
like,
then it puts you in the position to be like, whoa, oh, okay, actually, uh, we just wanted to eat earlier. We're not saying the food was terrible as
yeah,
well, right?
yeah. But it's kind of
Interesting.
like that Christian idea of like,
Yeah.
oh, we need to make this right. We'll do anything it takes.
Yeah.
And then people almost have like that resolve of like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
people
okay.
respond to that.
Yeah.
People like it's yeah. It was so funny. I was outside of Wild Iris today, and it's like kind of they have like a rainbow flag half the time. It's kind of like a liberal
Yeah.
store, but they had 3 words on the outside. It was like travel light, be light, and then one other thing about light and spread light or something like that. And I was like, that's like you guys are Christian. I was like, this is the Christian message to travel light and to be light and to like, yeah, and to spread the light. I was like, this is basically what Christ is calling us to do. The tenets of the Christian faith are universal,
Mm-hmm.
and they touch everyone. It's like you can don't just apply it to the church, you apply it to the world, and it actually works. It's always surprising, and it shouldn't be surprising when we do it and it works. Or like pray for your enemies. You're like, okay, fine, and then you pray for them,
Yeah.
and good things always come from it.
How do you integrate what you've said in the last couple of minutes with people with whom you have to confront difficulties or conflicts?
I mean, I try, you know. I had a hard relationship with 2 different women in the past 2 years.
Hmm.
That one was harder than the other, but you just have to choose your words really carefully and try to like try to keep going with that even when you're receiving nothing. It's funny like how you don't know when the kind and sweet thing to say that you've said or do or you try, and it's so easy, especially like with both of these were emails, like digital communication, and it's so easy in those situations to like want to like point A, da 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 da, point B, da da da, like kind of outwit them or outwin them or win them because of your arguments. When it's like,
Win the argument instead of try to win a
yeah, yeah,
friend.
yeah, totally, totally. So, but it's so funny. It's always interesting. Like you don't know at what moment being kind is just going to disarm them, and it might not happen right away. And I'm certainly guilty of of not taking the higher road every time, but it doesn't take you anywhere. When you win the argument, it doesn't work. You have to really actually work on winning the heart, you know? How about you?
Uh, yeah, I guess men certainly, I'm not saying this, men think more about this than women do. I'm just saying I know that men think about this.
Mm-hmm.
We do think about dominance hierarchies.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Women do too.
oh,
Well, but not in the same way. Yeah, yeah. Keep
I
going.
imagine they do,
But not in the same. In a different way than men do. Continue.
but right, but I don't know what that experience is.
Yes.
I've had women try to explain parts of it to me,
Yeah.
right? Um, yeah, I'm trying to reconcile the principle of killing with kindness with the certainly the belief, and perhaps I might even say principle that sometimes conflicts do have to be addressed. Sometimes people have to have their wrongdoing pointed out to them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um,
Right. Do you know that story of Moses the Black? Whenever he lived, I don't know enough about him, so forgive if this is incorrect, but I know he lived a life that was contrary to the faith, entered the faith, became a monastic. And he was then like the abbot, and whenever he had to correct a brother, he would wear a bag of sand on his back and poke a hole in the bag of sand and then walk into the room that he was supposed to make the correction. All meanwhile, the bag of sand is slowly leaking out. And he would say, I'm correcting you, but I know that I have my own faults that I cannot see. And I'm blind to my own faults and sins. And that's why I'm wearing this bag of sand that's leaking, to show you that, like, I'm correcting you in the humility of, I also need correction. And I also,
As in our imperfections are sort of littering
yeah, like,
the world around us. We have to try to correct. We have to try to spill less sand.
yeah, but correcting with humility, like without, and if someone corrects me with a bag of, like, not a physical bag of sand, but with that, idea of a bag of sand on them, acknowledging their own weaknesses that they can't see and open to correction, I'm much more able to take correction from them, from a humble person, than I am from someone that feels arrogant, right?
Sure. Oh, for sure.
So I feel like you're right. There is this, like, sometimes you have to say it,
Yep.
and sometimes you have to draw. And then there's also like a lot of toxic situations and people with mental illnesses and, things that, like, are difficult, that you sometimes have to draw lines and have boundaries that you wish weren't there. Sometimes just killing with kindness doesn't, it's not, sometimes you actually have to step back. I've seen that in plenty of relationships,
Because sometimes it's like the person appreciates your kindness, but the problem they're struggling with
yeah,
can't be cured by your kindness.
right, right, exactly. It's bigger than that.
Yeah. So they want to accept it, but they may not know how, or they don't feel like they can.
Totally. I have a friend who was in a really hard marriage, he had a lot of dirty secrets, and it was really awful. And she just thought if she just poured more love and poured more love and poured more love, that it would be fixed. And she had to realize that it was beyond her, and she had to step away from that relationship.
So that's okay. That gets at my question much more neatly. How would you try to reconcile the thought that people can be killed with kindness, right? Like, oh, more love, more consideration, more acts of service will change people. Oh, shoot, here's a situation where that doesn't seem to be the operating principle. How do you reconcile those two thoughts? How do you know when to try killing with kindness, and when do you know when some other virtue needs to take the lead?
Yeah, I mean, I would say common sense and intuition and Holy Spirit,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
Like, it's not always, um,
Intuition. What is this strange word you use? Yeah, you may have to explain that to the men in the room.
that's hilarious.
It's also true.
So funny. You guys have intuition. Give me a break. Everyone has intuition. Just you can. It's important, I think, for people who have had good parents and who have been well formed. And I'm so grateful because I think my parents are both saints and beyond saints. They're just really whole people and really wise people.
Mm,
But it's easy for some, but it's important, I think, for some other people who don't have that same foundation to cling to or to build upon. It might be a harder thing to figure out, but it's important not to be walked all over in life, And so, like, that, more acts of service and more this and more kindness, like, you do need to stick up for yourself. You need to be able to say, like, that, hey, I deserve to be treated better than that. I deserve to. And I say that actually with parenting, it drives me crazy when I see parents treating the kids treating their parents poorly, and the parents just kind of put up with it and are just sweet and loving. And there's a difference too, I think, when there's when you're looking at authority. So friend to friend, if you're being kind, you know, if you're equal, if you're peers and you're being kind, you're trying to kill someone with kindness and it's not really working, then you can step away from the relationship or whatever. Or you choose carefully how to correct, right? Because it's not really your job to correct them. I mean, it is a little bit in friendship, but you're not their authority,
It's
right?
occasional in friendship,
Right.
whereas it's
Constant, almost in
yeah, it's dominant
Yeah.
in a parental.
Yeah, it's actually my responsibility to correct you regularly. And I can throw the humility card and show you my bag of sand every once in a while, but that's not really my place to constantly show you my bag of sand as a parent. My job is to lovingly correct, you know, and hopefully there's enough positive, loving interactions throughout the day that when I do need to correct, it's not, you know that I love you and you can take it from me because you know that I love you and I want your best good. And that's clear. But I think sometimes, yeah, that drives me crazy when I see parents, you know, kids that like say me, like I hate you. Like you shouldn't let your kids say that to you.
No.
Like that's not okay. You know, or if they just treat you poorly, like whine at you and I'm not going to, and like just attitude. Like parents shouldn't put up with that. It's just, and I think you get what you demand and like you get the respect that you demand. A teacher does too. You know, if you're in, you know, you're homeschooled. I mean, your mom was good at this, but like I've had lots of different teachers and some of the teachers that are too nice, nobody listens to them, you know?
Right. Yeah.
They have to be able to like hold their ground and hold their authority and kind of be a jerk sometimes in order to get everyone to listen. But the best ones are the ones that like 80% of the time it's fun and awesome. And then 20% of the time you're sitting up straight because you're like, oh shoot, we're in trouble. And you want them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how a relationship with God ought to be too, right? Like that's proper authority. Like most of the time it should be wonderful and good and great and there's so much freedom. And then every once in a while you're like, shoot, I messed up, but I'm not afraid of you because I want to be good because I love you. Not because it's what I'm supposed to be doing, but because I want this relationship to be good. You know, I want you to respect me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have like a really good coach or really good teacher, you care what they think about you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they don't have to be mean about it.
No.
Although, yeah. Some teachers and coaches are stern first and foremost. I don't think that does harm.
Mm-mm.
That can certainly be a style, whereas some teachers are, like you say, a little bit more 80-20. Usually they're really fun, but they know how to be stern. Others, they're kind of stern to lead
Yeah.
with.
But even the stern ones, it can be their style if you feel like there's love under it.
Right, right. They care
Yeah.
about you
Yeah.
and you're better. Yeah,
it's
they care about
effective.
you being better.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Whiplash?
Yes, so good. I
I
love that
feel
movie.
like J.K. Simmons is a teddy bear, but he puts on this persona that just like terrifies so many people. Because I was
'Cause he
watching,
needs to weed them out. He needs to weed out the.
I
Interesting.
think he's asking more of them. He's like, if you can stand up to this, there's
But
something.
wasn't he kind of like, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I feel like I came away from that movie thinking like that guy, I think there was some element of what you're saying is true, but he was almost like maybe mentally a little, he took it too far, right?
I think that's the question of the movie.
Yeah.
People wondering, was it too far? But it's like the time when he's like talking to him in the bar, and
Okay.
he's like, he knows exactly what the kid did, got him removed, everything.
Okay.
And like you can tell that he actually cares about the kid. And he
Yeah.
knows that the kid is just being a kid.
Yeah.
And then it's like at the very end when you like he sees him play and then he just lets him go.
Yeah.
I think that's the moment he's like, that's what I was looking for. Because I saw that in you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you wouldn't get there
Mm-hmm.
unless I was who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or unless I was who I sort of take on as a,
yeah.
you're saying perhaps as a persona.
Because I just watched, so we watched the second accountant movie.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
So the first one, its premise is there's a autistic boy. He's really good with figuring out puzzles,
Mm-hmm.
and he always has to finish. And then his dad is an army guy, so he puts the autistic boy and his brother into all sorts of martial arts training.
Okay.
So they grow up. The non-autistic kid becomes a hitman, and the autistic kid becomes an accountant.
Okay.
And he solves the worst crime problems and then reports it all back to the U.S. and they jail all these people.
Wow.
So he's kind of like this silent, hidden guy that's just super good. But like at the beginning, J.K. Simmons is in there, and he's the guy that runs the part of the government that gets all the information. And you're like terrified of this guy. He's just like he knows everything. He's like figured it all out. And then you hear his story, and then you're like, oh, that was all a persona. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's those guys that you're scared of because you know that they expect higher things from you,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of appreciate their brashness,
Mm-hmm.
but you know that they're not being brash to be brash. They're being that so like it's like that trial by fire type
Mm-hmm.
thing.
But part of what makes them attractive is their very self-forgetfulness, that they don't really care if you don't like them. They don't really care about
Totally.
their popularity. Like part of what makes you respect them amidst their sternness or brashness or
Totally.
even harshness of a certain kind, is that you recognize that they've forgotten about themselves in the midst of trying to make you better.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're
so
willing,
they're willing to be the really
which is
tough coach.
Christ-like. I mean, Christ is willing to be the villain or what looks like a villain on a cross,
Yeah.
right? Which is like for the sake of our salvation.
Mm.
So whenever someone's able to kind of get over what the crowd thinks of them,
Yeah.
um,
It's almost like then you can actually move.
mhm,
Well, and those are the freest people, right? Yeah.
mhm.
Right. Have you ever met someone who really just doesn't worry about what other people think?
Totally, yeah,
It's like a superpower. Yeah.
totally, yeah.
And you're scared being around them because you're like, I don't know how to
It's
handle
scary being
this.
around them because you realize that they're walking on the edge of a cliff that normally our tribal
Mhm.
instincts kick in to keep us away from that cliff.
Hmm.
Totally.
Yeah. Right.
It's interesting too. I was thinking when you were talking about, uh, well, just, I'm a mother, so I relate a lot of things back to parenting, but because that's my experience. But it's really important for a person in authority to know their mentee or whoever they're working with, to know them and what would work with them, because that type of push obviously worked in Whiplash and can work in a lot of situations, but to some others it can break them. So like having, I remember, it's just an example, but like my daughter Tree, who's 20, she was little. I remember spanking her, and it was like she crumbled. I had two boys, then I had her. She's my first daughter, and I spanked her, and I remember like thinking, I can't ever spank this child ever again. Like she's just too. It's too. It like killed her
Oh,
spirit.
traumatic.
Like it crushed her. Yeah. And then
Whereas your boys brush it off.
oh yeah, and then some of them brushed it off. And then Maury, who's 14 now, he was such a little naughty thing and so charming and cute, but got into so much mischief. And I feel like I spanked that kid more than I've wanted to say. Like I spanked the hell out of that kid. And he's so cool though. He would just be like, yeah, he'd like kind of shrug his shoulders and like smile at me and like be like, that hurt, but like, okay, whatever. Like he never held it against me. It didn't ever hurt our
You're like,
relationship.
that was the toll
Yeah, it was just
of
kind of like, yeah,
the highway of
totally.
the highway of adventure.
Exactly. And he just like took it. And I was like, I could spank the hell out of that kid because he didn't care. And like, and Tree, I couldn't. Like, so there's just like, you really have to, and it's interesting too when you think about a relationship with God and his authority, how he has to, um, I just read this beautiful quote. Someone asked Pope Benedict, how many ways are there to God? And he said, as many ways as there are people. Like that his relationship with us is so entirely unique with each of us. And our way to him is entirely unique. And just that like, uh, you know, whenever you're in a position of authority, you are acting in place of God in some small way,
Hmm.
you know, and how important it is to know the person you're dealing with, know the soul before you. And I think that's like what a good spiritual director does too, right? Is you really get to know the soul and then you direct accordingly.
Mm.
But
Are some of your children still more of a mystery to you than others?
um,
Or is mystery not the right word?
yeah, no, that's a good question. I feel like the only one that's a real mystery right now is Georgia because she's 3 months old. Like no one knows what she's or 2 months. Like no one really knows what she is.
Right.
But like the rest of the kids, it's interesting how quickly your character comes out.
Okay.
I feel like the rest of them are 5 and up, and I can kind of already tell, you know, who they are. So cool how you're just, you kind of just are who you are as soon as you're born, you know?
Mm,
I mean, or within a few years.
okay.
Yeah. I mean,
You
obviously
lean
they,
towards the nature side rather than the nurture, as in
oh,
nature has more to do
yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's both. I think everyone
Yeah.
says it's both. I think it, but I do think that like, yeah, I think in a certain way, you are who you are, but they're like an oak tree or a birch tree or a geranium plant, but you still need the same elements to thrive,
Right. Right.
which is like hard work and discipline and love and care and all those same things go into it.
Right.
And it might be a little different. Like this one needs to be watered. This one you can overwater easily. This one you can underwater easily,
Yep.
you know?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. The nurture is involved in allowing them to fulfill their potential.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's not there, then yes,
But you're
it's
still
it's
an oak
still
tree.
it's still an oak tree, but it's twisted or
Yeah. It's like,
something's been
it's not
lost,
thriving.
an
Yeah.
opportunity has been missed.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
definitely seen that in friends where you first get to know them and you think like there's something missing, like their personality seems a little faded, and then they go through something and then they kind of like find themselves, and then you're like, that's who I saw, but you weren't that. Like
Yes.
something changed. It's not like you're
Yes.
not that other person
Hmm.
before, but it's almost like they broke through the shell almost.
Totally.
Yeah,
Describe.
shout out to my friends. I don't think they'd mind me saying Tony and Amanda, but I remember they were friends in college, and always they were always great,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then they went through some life experiences, some accidents, some medical things, and I remember when they had gone through many of these things, so they had lived out the sorrowful
Mm-hmm.
mysteries of the rosary, so to speak. Yeah, they had lived out the Calvary,
Mm-hmm.
the walk to Calvary. They had lived that out for a number of years. And I remember talking to them afterwards, and for just 1 second, just seeing something that had really come into full bloom, both between them as a married couple, but
Mm-hmm.
also in them
Mm-hmm.
as more mature,
Mm-hmm.
um, more just more,
Yeah.
right? It's not like they weren't them before,
Mm-hmm.
but they were more now, right? Yeah, yeah. Again, I'll use the word bloom.
Yeah. I've heard that too, or that suffering is the greatest teacher, and it is in fact the only teacher. I read that. Who said that? I think it was the um saint or venerable Vietnamese priest. Anyway, I don't
I was
remember.
going to invoke that trope that all quotes read down to Winston Churchill or Bruce Lee.
Do it. Do it. Great. Bruce Lee. This is a good one for Bruce Lee. Yeah, totally. But just that, like, you see that, and that's a question too, because I have a friend who just lost her baby this year. She has two children, and she's lost a lot of children, but this one, she had trisomy. What is it? Trisomy 18. Anyway, died, before he was born, and that was really, really painful for them. But she lives out, like, she embodies the joyful mysteries of the rosary. Like, if there's someone who has more joy than my friend Lorena, I don't know who it is.
Hmm.
And even in the midst of the suffering, I don't know if I know it colored her and matured her, I'm sure, in depths of soul, like the way that you speak of. But she was already so amazing in my mind that it didn't degrade. I didn't even see any room for her to grow as it was. But it was interesting how somebody who has such joy can also suffer at the same time. And she didn't lose her joy meanwhile. I find that interesting. Like, it's almost like an interior, regardless of what's, because you can be somebody who's almost called to embody those sorrowful mysteries of the rosary, but actually have really good things happening in your life, right? And then you can be somebody who's embodies the joyful mysteries of the rosary or the joy of God, but your life is really hard.
Hmm.
I'm sure you've seen that, you know?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I can think of someone.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So there's a charism there that goes beyond, you know,
The
the
circumstances of one's
circumstances.
particular life
Mhm.
or moment in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
What were you saying about your friend, though? To get back to that, you were saying I digress from the point. What was it? You were just saying that your friends, there was a maturity that they received, like almost like aha, there you are, kind of what you were saying. Like you're seeing more color of who they were that
Right.
came through the like crucible of,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. You know, my mom says she did a lot of counseling work, and she's read somewhere that at the age of 8, you are who you're kind of like the fullness of your character, a microcosm of your character or something, but you're kind of like, it's the best. 8-year-olds are the best indication of who someone is and as an adult. And then all that stuff in between, you kind of like get self-conscious and then you make weird decisions based on wanting societal approval, you know, the herd mentality and all that kind of stuff. You're playing with different things, trying to try on different, yeah, different personas even. And then you kind of come out, you arrive, and that your 8-year-old self is really similar to your adult self. That's more of that's more whole.
Huh.
Isn't that
That's really
interesting?
interesting.
I know.
So like at 8, we sort of get a snapshot of who you are,
Yeah.
and then you learn different social survival tactics
Yeah.
or adopt different personas, and
Yeah.
or maybe there are virtues that you have to put a lot of work into
Yeah.
developing, but and yes, they are virtues, and yes, you did acquire them, but in a way, your baseline is revealed at 8 years old.
Interesting.
That is interesting. Trying to think of some 8-year-olds I know.
I've got one. She's like totally free, totally awesome. And
Mm.
like, and I don't want her to change because
Mm.
8-year-olds tend to be pretty free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that, yeah, it's that getting back to the, like, they don't care about what anyone thinks yet. They
Hmm.
will, but they're like as fully developed as you can be without self-consciousness really creeping in.
Right.
Those are the age of reason, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, Peterson was talking to Rogan about his thoughts on unless you become like little children,
Oh yeah.
right? From scripture.
Mm.
And I believe Peterson's specific take in this instance was you have to start seeing the world not intermediated by your memories and experiences. So, but it also, I wonder to that, could you add, you have to become like little children in the way that you are freed from the concern of the opinion of the tribe. I remember a psychologist saying that he thought that's what made John the Baptist so compelling was that he had already faced death in the desert. And so the threats of the powerful in his society were not anything he couldn't handle because he had already stared death in the face and he already lived in the desert. So he was already independent from society for his needs. He lived in the palm of God. And additionally, the opinion of his society was not something that he worried about because he had already faced death. And that's what gave him his
What do you
ability
mean
to be,
face death in the desert? Like,
yeah,
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 like you might die out here.
I might die. This might be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever read the readings of Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich? Do you know who she is?
I've read snatches.
Okay,
Yeah.
I really like her stuff.
Okay.
I mean, when you read her writings, it's like it's hard to even think that she could be making any of it up because her knowledge of the geography of the Holy Land without even having been there is like perfect. Like she'll say there was an ancient well in a certain place, and they would go dig, and they'd be like, "Well, there it is." But she has this charming little story about John the Baptist that when the when Herod was slaughtering the innocent during that time, Elizabeth went and Zechariah went in the desert to hide away with John. So he grew up in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very comfortable in it. And then there was this little moment. I mean, all of this stuff, you take it or leave it because it's private revelation, you know. But I like it. I'd like to take it. But there was a moment she says that when Mary and Joseph were traveling to Egypt at night and on these little side roads and everything, and really confronting fear and hunger and thirst and exhaustion, there was a moment in which baby, Jesus, was just really fussy and crying and crying, and she was really thirsty, and they were just exhausted, and Mary just sat down and just started to cry. And I love it because I'm like, oh, that's like totally what women do. Like you just kind of hit a wall and you just cry. And I love the human aspect of that story. But then John the Baptist, she said she sees him. He was like one of those kids that could like walk at 10 months old and was like really agile and really just confident. And he would start to kind of leave, play in the desert, come home, play further, come home, play, be gone for longer periods of time, come home, and then eventually he was just like, I'm out. I'm in the desert. Like this is my
He went
life.
walkabout.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But he was maybe like, I don't know how old he was then, a little older, like not very old. And he was this little guy, but running around. And he had made this little flag out of, it's just so cute. Maybe it's not true, but I just love the story. Out of a stick and like I don't know, a hide or something. He has this little flag that he's like running around with, like the way a toddler would, messing around. And then he sees Our Lady crying, kind of down this like cliff, and he's up high and he like waves to her and he takes his stick and he hits a rock. And then out of this rock comes a stream that reaches her of water and they drink. And she says that's the only time they interact until his adult life, until the baptism. Isn't that interesting? I mean, who knows if that's true, but it's so charming and beautiful. But this idea
Sorry, what do you
that
mean by
maybe
that's the only time they interact?
like that our Lord and John the Baptist were together until the baptism. So it wasn't like, hey, cuz, like we like to think of it like they grew up together, like, hey, cuz, like they didn't, she says they didn't have that type of relationship. It was like kind of a distant cousin that you don't really see until the baptism. But but this idea that like that he was comfortable in the desert too. He probably did face death, but there's a when you were talking, I was thinking how interesting it is that we have to interact with society, gain the approval of society because we're dependent on society for our life.
We are.
And if you're truly independent, I guess people like homesteaders and they are kind of odd sometimes, and they can be because they don't need the rest of us,
Did you say homesteaders?
Yeah, like people that are just like super off the grid,
Right.
living their life, and you might interact with them every once in a while, and they're kind of like, oh, you're different. And is that because you're not ingrained in society, or is that because you don't have to ingrain yourself in? You don't have to worry about what the rest of us think of you.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
interesting.
Yeah, you don't have to keep up with the lingo.
Yeah.
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 Anyway,
That's interesting. We should take a quick break.
let's do it. This is fun. We're not really talking about. I don't know enough about this to talk about this.
Yeah.
I feel like
Whatever.
Maybe you can.
I feel like I know some things.
We can turn this into like I'll ask you questions.
Ooh. But there's so many topics we haven't gotten to.
I actually feel like we could talk about dating a little bit
That'd be a good thing.
Get on it.
because I feel like that's something that would be interesting.
I think I'll light one up too.
Yeah, do it. I like your ashtray.
No, we're not ashy enough yet.
You have to suck while you come on.
You gotta lean for yeah, you gotta lean into it, Tom. There you go.
Seeing if I could get the time.
This is fun. It's working inside.
Can you believe our grandparents did this every day? Yeah.
Whenever I watch movies, like old, like of people just smoking inside, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's dolled up for the evening, like a
Yes.
gown, pearls,
Yes.
bangles.
Yes.
Just, yep. With a delicate cigarette with like an inch of ash off the end of it. Be like, man, these people at class.
Right now now it's funny when you go to Europe, it's still kind of like normal, like kind of classy to smoke. And in America, it's like you go behind the dumpster behind the restaurant and like have your cigarette back there.
No.
Instead of being dolled up in the living room, you're like at the dumpster.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's where you belong.
Well,
That's a good point. I actually saw, speaking of old pictures or people doing things, there's this picture of a lady pilot from World War II. She's has all of her gear on and she's really pretty and she's just smoking a cigarette before she takes her flight. It's like, wow, that's like
Yeah.
really charming.
Yeah.
No. No, it's just the perfect catalyst for conversation. Yeah.
It is. And you end up getting to know people that you wouldn't normally get to know. I
So true.
love the social dynamic. I don't smoke by myself. I only smoke with people. And
I think that, and that may have been more the case now that people have to like go outside to smoke. So like you go to the smoking spot.
Yes.
So the people who smoke go there together.
Yes. And then if you're at a wedding or something and you have a cigarette and you're like, oh, hey, and all of a sudden you're talking to someone that you wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
connected with otherwise, and
Mm-hmm.
bonding thing there.
I remember the other guys in my class, and I remember thinking in college that, wow, like in terms of just conversational skill, they're years ahead of people who don't smoke.
Interesting.
I know. It's a real trade-off.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
it's too bad it's carcinogens being pulled into your lungs. It's real. It's a bummer.
Yeah, but I also think stress isn't good for you. So I don't know. Stress,
Another trade-off.
people who are really healthy and who are really stressed out, they tend to like die of heart attacks at young ages.
Huh.
So I also think there's an element of like, if do things that are healthy and that are pleasing to you and that bring you joy. And then if you don't, if you, for smoking, you do them in, you smoke in moderation, as the catechism says. I like to quote the catechism.
Do you peel off when you're expecting?
Yeah. Like every once in a while I have one
Yeah.
for fun, but I try not to
Right. Yeah.
because it feels kind of gross to smoke regularly when you're pregnant. Yeah. I have a friend from college, and for a long time, whenever we would have a baby, we would mail each other a pack of cigarettes like as a happy baby gift.
That's awesome.
It's so funny.
Right. Yeah. Send around photos of the family baby's first cigarette. You know, they're just there. They're clutching a Winston. Gonna get all this hate mail from your own family. How can you do this?
Okay, let's talk about dating.
Yeah. Why are people lonely? Why are people who are striving for holiness and have been well educated lonely and not dating? Why are people not dating?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, first, I think it comes to first, I think there's an issue with some women that they don't know how to flirt.
Another lost skill.
A lost skill.
Yeah.
And maybe it's also not their fault, but it's because we've heightened dating to this high level of like when you ask someone on a date, it's like basically asking someone to get married, instead of just casually dating and being okay to casually date somebody and then go out with someone else the next weekend and just getting to know different people and having fun. It's become so much more serious now, and don't like that.
Can you tell me from your experience when do you think that switch happened? From like, yeah, let's go on a date, see if you have fun. Have fun even if you don't think
It happened before I was alive,
okay.
you know.
I don't know.
I mean, I just
I
know
wish I did know.
1950s was like, I think the time when it was like you go out with Bobby on Saturday night and then go out with Freddie on Thursday, and like you just casually hang out with people, and it was normal to do that. Now it's like if you're going on a date with a guy, you probably shouldn't be going on a date with another guy at the same time.
Uh-huh.
You have to like see that through.
Sure.
And that's partly why
You have to be
women
sequential.
turn people down, is because you're kind of like, well, if I say yes to you, then that means I can't date this other guy that I'm thinking about would be fun to hang out with too.
Hmm.
So it almost feels like an exclusivity that's premature.
Okay. Okay.
Do you agree? Like if you go on like 2 dates with a guy and then, or if you're a guy, if you go on 2 dates with a girl and then you're like, hey, this girl looks kind of cute too. I'd like to get to know her. You would probably feel like you'd have to have a conversation with the other girl and be like, hey, you know what? Sorry, I don't think that this is really working out. Thanks, but no thanks. Before you just got caught in a restaurant with another girl.
Yeah, if you're doing it in the same town,
Yeah.
yeah, you probably have to have some sort of
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of conversation. It's certainly not just the culture of like, oh yeah, he and I went out yesterday and I just saw him without
Yeah. It's
with
like, oh my gosh, what is he doing?
with
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? What? Yeah. Yeah, that would definitely cause some disturbance for sure.
Hmm. But I also think that women, there's especially like the Catholic world, there's a little bit of like, I'm going to pray for my vocation, pray for my husband, pray, 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 and then expect God to like deliver him on a silver platter to you when you haven't like smiled and put yourself out there a little bit and been nice. And then I also think that women now can come on too strong and can kind of like not. I've noticed that too, that women aren't so great at holding their cards to their chest, where they end up leading the relationship or leading the conversations of like, hey, can we talk? Hey, I really like you. And I think that's a big mistake for girls. Like, if you like a guy, you shouldn't be the one to say that. You should let him know, send signals that, like, I'm welcome to any advances, but not have, but not say it blatantly.
Hmm.
Do you agree with that? I think with every once in a
I
while, there's a guy that will work with, but most of the time, I think a guy wants to be the one to like lead and pursue.
I think that is generally the healthy male instinct. Uh,
Is to feel like I want her, I'm going to pursue her, I'm going to win her, I'm going to like win Lady Fair and like go
yes.
for that.
I'm trying to think if I know in my own experience anyone where like, she took the lead and the guy was like, "Oh, okay." And now they're happily married.
Yeah,
I
I know one
okay.
where it worked,
Okay.
but most of the
But
time, I think
talk
it
to me more about the talk to me more about flirting.
doesn't.
Like when you say flirting, like what are you thinking of? It's the making jokes, it's the leaning into the sexual energy that might arise between a young man and a young woman.
Yeah,
You know, it's the moderate physical touch. It's the ways in which we tease each other in a way that is not usually ways we tease, say, siblings or their friends,
yeah,
not
yeah.
necessarily.
I
Is that
think
what you have in mind?
yeah, and I think like eye contact, smiling, laughing at jokes, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
A general like warmth and and a little bit of attention, but not too much attention.
Mm.
But there's an art to it. There's a game that needs to be played that I feel like is people don't know how to play it very well anymore.
Are people being taught to not play it?
Yes,
By
and I
whom?
think that's the issue.
I think people are believed, especially in the Catholic world, that flirting is dirty.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a holy way of doing it.
I
Like
think,
flirting is the first step towards
To
premarital
yeah,
sex.
yeah, they're like well, at least at school, um, people would, I had a really good friend, and she asked me, was like, "Do you think I'm flirty?" And I was like, in the bad way, and I was like, "No." And she's like, "Everyone thinks I'm so flirty," and I was like,
which is just nice.
"She was just really,
That's a
really nice."
dangerous too. That's a danger too, because then a girl who's nice knows how to do it can be meant to feel like, oh, you got to pull that, you got to rein that in. And there is a certain element that you can't go overboard.
Right.
But
But almost girls are, I've heard of recently girls that are pulled aside by other girls and like, you can't talk to that man because you're talking to this other guy. And they're
yes,
like guilt tripped into this thing. And now they're like, oh, I can't talk to people because I'm flirting.
yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe you should flirt. I don't think that's a problem. So
Hmm.
I didn't really think of it as an issue because people are like, oh, that's a character flaw. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's supposed to be some sort of
That's how
play.
you get to know. Yeah, this would be playful. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
But
even
still chaste.
right because like even like my dad is very flirty with all sorts of women.
Yeah,
He's just that kind of guy.
yeah,
He has a more salesy personality by might be one
Salesy.
descriptor.
Yeah, he's very just charming.
yeah,
So, but you'd never in a million years think my dad would ever cheat.
yeah. Right.
So it's like, but that I think allows for those good moments. It's like You want to have good moments in between people.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be in wedlock to only have
Yeah.
good moments with that person.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's a
Totally.
Catholic thing is like you have to be fully committed to this one person. You can only play with them.
Yeah.
You can't have nice thoughts and smiles and
Yeah.
conversations with other people. And it's just,
Yeah.
that's so deadening.
It is. And as a married person, when you have a really healthy marriage, which I have, I'm so grateful to say I have that. There's so much trust involved that, like, if I see Justin laughing and even teasing like another woman, I'm like, this is fun. Like, I actually, I enjoy it, and it's like it's not this, like, because I know that he's so devoted to me. Like, I know that there's no question in my mind, and he's also just a very devoted person. He's not the type of person to, even be prone to womanizing, even if he wasn't a Christian man. Um, but I think that's a sign of, like, virtue and health. There's this. I remember going to the seminary one day. I went to this, like, seminarian dinner, and there's this old woman there, and she was, like, very beloved by everyone. And she says something really funny. She's like, I just flirt with all the priests and they love it. And it was, like, hilarious. I mean, she was probably like 75, so she could totally get away with it. They probably felt like, yeah, she's a safe person to, like, joke with and laugh with and smile with and talk with because she's 75 and I'm like 30 or 40 or whatever. But there is this element of, like, playfulness that's healthy, and that can still be holy and chaste and joyful.
Do you think you could say that you can actually harness sexual energy to charity, right? It's not like, oh, like the things that your sexual energy might cause you to do or incline you to do, it's not like those are just apart from charity. Like, no, you can act in a way that's sort of specific to the relations between men and women, but it's still charitable.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there are some situations where, and I hate calling it sexual energy. I guess you can call it that, but just the dynamic, the complementarity between man and woman is really well suited for things like evangelization or, like, hard conversations even.
Mm.
Like I had a friend who dressed really immodestly. We can talk about that a little bit too, and I never said anything because I was like, I love this girl so much and she's a sensitive girl and I'm never going to say that to her. I'm just going to love her. But then when she went to college, there was a young man who was like, Megan, you need to get rid of half the clothes in your closet. Like, this is not good. Like, you're better than this. And she could take it from him because of that dynamic.
Okay.
Where if a woman calls out another woman on immodesty, it's almost like competitiveness or judginess or things like that. And it
A
can,
little slut shaming or something like
yeah, it
that.
can really ruin a relationship.
Whereas a man can actually say it because there's a way in which he can
Yeah.
come from an angle of like, look, I'm interested in what's on display. So I really am acting in your own best interest when I say it need not be on display in that way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Or even just, like, harder conversations that I've even had with guys. Like, I can kind of call them on in a way that's like they can take it from me, that where they might not be able to take it from another guy,
Sure.
you know?
Okay, so you see two problems on the women's side, and it seems to me that the common link might be an element of insisting on control above all else. Like, I'm going to be the one to ask him out. I'm going to take control.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't flirt, and you're doing the opposite thing, you're like being frigid. But again, I'm thinking right now that it's also about control. I'm not going to sort of lean into that riding the wind or riding the wave, right? It's like I'm going to stay safely ashore. I'm not going to be in that sort of controlled chaos of
Yeah.
what it is to be surfing. And flirting is like that. Like, it's surfing. It's a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit crazy. We don't know exactly where it's going to go, but there's also a control to it.
Yeah.
It's not totally unorganized.
Yeah.
Is that, am I accurately mirroring what your thoughts are?
Shoot, I had a thought and I just lost it. Um, yeah, I would say that's right. That there's an element. Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. That there's, like, part of I mean, the sexual revolution was crazy, and there was a lot of weird stuff that came out of it, and there were some good things that came out of it, like the 1960s, the empowerment of women. Let me just say that that our society now tells women you can do anything you want. You can have anything, you can go for anything, go, go, go. You be strong, go woman,
Okay.
which is a great message in a lot of ways because it's very true in a lot of ways. But I think sometimes women apply that to relationships with men. And I don't, and I think in that context, there is something more primal that we need to give reverence to, which is this primal instinct of a man to hunt, to see what he wants, to hunt and to get it.
To be the protagonist,
Yeah,
the actor.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that actually that usually does better. Where when women take the bull by the horns and try to go get whatever they want, sometimes it works and usually it doesn't. And then there's women that might feel a total aversion to all of that woman power stuff. So then they take the other extreme, like that you're saying, of almost frigidity, excuse me, of being like, I'm going to kind of stay in the corner and wait for someone to find me,
Okay.
which that doesn't really get you anywhere either. So there's a happy medium between the two and really what it comes down to, I think, is freedom in Christ. Like if a woman's heart is really rooted in Christ as her primal lover, and she's willing to go wherever he follows, and she's willing to give herself to him completely, even in religious life, if that's what he's calling. There's a freedom in she's not looking for an unhealthy attention from men. Or looking not unhealthy attention. She's not looking for attention from men in an unhealthy way.
Sure.
Like to fill some thing inside of her that needs to be filled. It's more just like that playfulness. And this is when we're talking about before, unless you become like little children, I've been thinking about that a lot, how the hallmark of a child is playfulness. Like from the time that they are born, like I mean, I have a 2-month-old right now and she's there's just she responds to playfulness, and that's what we all do, singing little songs and playing little games and talking to her like this, like in a playful way, and then she responds because that is what is innate to children, is playfulness. And somehow we lose that, and that freedom in Christ brings us back to that childlike relationship with him and with the world. And there's a freedom of play there that we were getting to before, but even in relationships of the opposite sex, of just because I smile at you, just because your dad smiles and winks at a lady because she's nice, and doesn't mean he's going to be unfaithful. Doesn't mean he doesn't deeply love his wife and his family. It's just like I'm a happy person and I'm going to be playful, And then if in the context of like actually trying to, win or pursue or find a spouse, there's like an elevated element of that. Like, okay, let's see where this goes. Let's elevate that to the next level. But I think and I also think to get back to the conversation about brotherhood, that I think that brotherhood and sisterhood at the end of the day, and Pope Francis said something really beautiful about this. And it was in the context, I think, of homosexuality, which he got, everyone got all up in arms about whatever he had to say about those things. And I think sometimes we didn't even really understand the context of what he was saying. But he did say something really beautiful, that at the end of the day, we're all like little children and we should be able to love each other freely like children. That is the highest form of brother-sister love in this world, is to have that freedom to love each other like children love each other. And yeah, I think there's something there with I remember one night when Jess and I were first dating, we like went out into this field and we were just like playing like kids, and we were just like holding hands like kids, and there wasn't a lot of like sexual energy. It was just joyful, and like we were like a brother and sister just having fun together under the moon, like in this beautiful field, and just have and really, and I think back on that that evening and other evenings we had together that were just, they were based in friendship, they were based in Christ, and they were very brotherly, sisterly. And then, of course, that is a beautiful foundation to a life together as spouses. But I think people need to get back to that playfulness with one another, which is kind of the point of flirting, right?
So it's like fear has invaded our way of acting in this area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fear of being left behind, so I am driven to be totally assertive, or fear of being
Mm-hmm.
pursued, so I'm going to be frigid.
I think it's more of a fear of, oh, that's interesting. I don't know about that. A fear of being pursued. I think that's probably if you've got some real dysfunction in you. I think most women want to be pursued.
Okay.
I think it's women that are like have some maybe some more serious wounds or something that they have to deal with, who would be afraid of being pursued.
Okay. And so then on the education side of things, do you see like young people are being educated to behave a certain way because those educating them are likewise fearful that flirtation could lead to a romantic relationship, and a romantic relationship could lead to premarital sex.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we have to do everything we can to forestall romantic relationships until they're like absolutely within these very tightly controlled bounds, so we can like get them to the finish line of marriage. Yeah, we got to get them to the finish line, so we can't let the romance start too early, something like that.
Even to the point where you can't even have any PDA. Like you're dating, but you can't do that in public.
I don't really like PDA in general. I think it's kind of off-putting.
I was thinking just like holding hands,
Okay, well that's fine. Yeah.
but that's like considered PDA in college here.
Oh, really? You're not
Yeah,
supposed to hold
you
hands.
can't hold hands.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, like
PDA is a pretty broad term.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that was my
Yeah,
experience.
I guess there's a difference between, there's a difference between, you could call PDA like a man and a woman sitting on a park bench and he's got his arm around her. Okay, obviously there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
And then there's
But that's
PDA
not uncomfortable for people.
where you're like, do you guys mind coming up for air?
Yeah. Right. I think that's the thing that's like,
Yeah.
I think when PDA is, anyone could walk up to you and feel comfortable engaging with you, then that's appropriate. Like if a guy has his arm around a girl,
Yeah.
but you still feel like, oh, hey guys, how's it going? You could
Mm.
come along and walk up and say hi. Or if they're holding hands, same thing.
Right.
But if they're like locked in this uncomfortable way, where you're just like, get a room, like get out of it, and this is uncomfortable for me to be around, that's sort of where I would draw the line.
Get a room. Oh, no, wait, don't.
Yeah, don't get a room.
Get two separate rooms.
Get away from each other. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Okay. How do you feel the internet has changed the dating landscape?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Even texting and all that stuff has really changed it. Mostly for the worse, I want to say.
Oh,
I mean, maybe not the internet. Maybe like, are you talking about like online dating? Is that what you're talking about?
that is where I was starting with, but
Yeah, I can
I'd
get
be
into
happy to
that.
hear any of your
Well, I was thinking
thoughts.
about even just within the context of relationship, there's so much like interaction that happens now over text instead of in person.
Mm,
And then people don't know how to be with each other in their incarnate beings. You know, it's like, oh, we've overshared in this digital form.
okay.
And then all of a sudden we're together. And then what do we have here? And it's like, it's important to not, I think that's important just to not overshare, really keep it. Maybe, I mean, you could maybe be a little bit flirty over text but keep it kind of like, hey, let's hang out. When are we going to get together? And like, try to be, I don't know what you guys think, but I think none of it is good, but when two people have premarital sex, I'm like, okay, well, at least they had premarital sex with a human being, right?
Sure.
Versus like getting into some weird sexual addiction on the internet that's not real and seeing images that are not really women. Like you are in, you become infatuated with something that's not even a real woman. It's just like it's not even real. And at least in a premarital sex situation,
It's sort of a confection of a woman.
yeah, you've actually fallen for a real person
Yeah.
with her warts and her, imperfections and her love handles or whatever she's got that she's not perfect, but like that's a real person. And so obviously it's it's a sin. It's a sin, and it's not, and it's premature, but it's still a good thing. That's just it's out of order
Mm.
versus like the whole thing being uh perversion, which is I think what like pornography does and everything. In terms of like online dating, I don't know what I think about that, because it seems like now that that's just sort of the world we live in, and when you live in a small community, sometimes your pool is small and you need to kind of look outside of that pool, and the internet's the way to do that, to meet other people.
Hmm.
So there's been I think I've seen a few successful relationships that have come out of that. I'm
Yep.
sure you have too.
I think so. Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met online.
Yeah. And
And now we're together, right? We're together as
yeah.
two human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not against that per se. I think that's something that like a young person has um to be open to. The problem with that is the Amazon problem, where you have too many options, and so then none of them are good enough.
Yeah.
Where it's like in the old days, I was just reading about Pa and Ma Ingalls. So they both lived in these like, they both lived way out west, or not way out west, I don't know, Midwest. And he lived in the farm near, was working at a farm near where she lived. And they met and they fell in love and they got married. It's like, how small is that pool? And how, I mean, at least Laura Ingalls depicts their marriage as being pretty great, that they really
Hmm.
loved each other and they really were a great team. And so there's an issue. There's a little problem there with when you can have everything, you don't want any of it. None of it's good enough. But when your pool is smaller, sometimes that's a healthier. And that's how it's been for the majority of human existence.
Right.
Is not.
It's a little
Mhm.
weird being able to see who's single in Abu Dhabi.
What's Abu Dhabi?
It's a city on the other side of the world.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little odd to be like,
Okay.
oh, so
Yeah.
who's in Abu Dhabi who's looking? Like
Totally.
I can look there in a
Totally.
certain way.
Yeah.
It's certainly not.
And then we're treating people like products,
Mm,
like, oh, I want one that has this feature. That doesn't have this feature. No, 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 no. Versus if you get to know a person, they might not have that feature that you're looking for, but they might have many other wonderful features that make up for that. And they might have, even more importantly, the ability to be in a relationship with you that's healthy, which you can't really know until you get to know someone.
sure.
Because you can have somebody that checks all the boxes, but then do they have the ability to communicate well and to listen to you and to hear what you have to say and be interested in what you're interested in, or interested in your passions and all those things. Like those things matter more than, you know, if they like the TLM or not, you know.
And you think online dating specifically slants us towards a checkbox mentality? Be like, oh
I think
my
it can.
gosh, she's not 5'4". Oh no.
Totally.
Oh, this won't work.
A little bit. I mean,
Swipe left.
yeah, a little bit,
Right,
right?
because well, and it
What do you do?
makes sense because if you are in a position of you're trying to sort literally thousands of options,
Yeah.
you have to come up with some sort of
Mhm.
organizing principle, and
Mhm.
you don't know what sense of humor he has or
Mhm.
how good of a listener she is, or right, you can't represent those things
Mhm.
online. So you have to try to organize your selection
Mhm.
on things that are selectable. And so
Mhm.
that's height and age and hair color and other things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't you think that's one of the drawbacks? Even though there's some good to it.
I do think it's a drawback in the sense that I suspect it's very discouraging for people to hear things like 20% of people online get 80% of the attention, right?
Mm,
Or similar statistics like that.
mm,
And it could be, well, it's like, oh, men who are a certain height or above get this much attention. Men below this certain height get this much attention. Well, it makes sense because you could make an argument why height is desirable, right?
mm.
But
And that
as
might be true off the screen
it
too.
might be true off the screen, but I think that the online platform specifically does not allow representations of things that are
Mhm,
very desirable but can't exactly be represented. Like, can you write in your introduction, "Oh, I'm very funny.
mhm,
All my friends say I'm very funny.
mhm.
I'm always making people
Yeah,
laugh."
and if you
You
said
can't.
that,
If you wrote that,
yeah,
people would think you're a freak.
like no, no,
Right?
yeah.
Or like, how do you like the other thing I just said, like, how do you represent that I'm a good listener?
Mhm,
Like, that might actually be super important to someone,
mhm.
but there's no way to really represent that online that I
Yeah,
can think of,
yeah.
which is why I suggested to my friends the other day that these dating sites need a references section where you get friends to write references for
Hey,
you.
That's actually deep.
also think this is my big idea. Like, you know, I'm not on social media anymore, but I was on Facebook for a while, and I kept thinking they should make like a Facebook, or you could maybe do Instagram or whatever, but um, like a Facebook dating app that went along with it. That if you could look at all of my friends
Hmm.
and like maybe let's say it's called Facebook dating. Okay. And you don't know, I don't know who's on Facebook dating because I'm not on Facebook dating, but you would know because if you're on Facebook dating, you would know.
Right.
And then you can be like, oh, that person's friends with Hope Schneir. Hey, private message Hope. Hey, what about your friend Caroline?
Hmm.
What's she like? Do you think we'd be good together? And I could be like, yeah, actually, you know what? She's kind of like, I don't know. She's kind of like back and forth with a lot of different guys. She's kind of, I don't think I can say that
She's all
working
over the
out.
place.
She's
She
all over the
doesn't know what
place,
she
whatever.
wants.
Or, but there's like, how many friends do you have? A lot. And how many friends of friends do they have? There could be someone who's a friend of a friend who would be the perfect person for you,
Hmm.
but that the connecting person hasn't put it together because they're too busy to think, oh, Jonathan and this person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of what I'm saying about the references thing.
Okay.
I
We
would
need
like,
to we need to find a way to online do the thing that's been done for thousands of years, which is you allow the community
yeah,
to serve as a connecting fabric between the two of you,
yes.
right? Where people are like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you guys actually seem
Yeah,
to
I like
work."
that idea. Yeah, she's a great girl. Ask her, see what she's up to. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Then you've got something to go by. And then when you hang out with her, you can be like, hey, so you're friends with the Schneers, I'm friends with the Schneers. Yeah, how do you know them? And there's like something to kind of start with and build upon versus this idea of like, you looked good online and I know nothing about you. I have
Mm-hmm.
no other connection to you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah. Oh, I think that's yeah,
what
it's
do you guys
brutal.
what do you guys think about the dating life right now? I mean, what do you see are the downfalls and the hard parts of it?
I think the hardest part for online dating is you only get one shot to get their attention.
Yeah.
So you get a heart, and then you get maybe like 100 characters to write something.
Yeah.
If they don't respond, you have no other chance. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like there's
With all
no,
this pressure to say the perfect thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's no chance to like actually pursue them
Yeah.
because they may just say, nope.
Yeah. Where in real life, you can be like, hey, nice to meet you. And then like bump into them at another event and be like, hey, I really liked that thing that you did or whatever and kind of just build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, yeah, it's like a one shot
Mhm.
system right now. And then like, yeah, there's no real element of showing that you're interested beyond your first show.
Do you think that the online dating and let's say just like Hollywood and pornography and all the images that we see, when I say pornography, I'm not even like soft, like the things that you might not even be looking for, but that come into your face of like, okay, this is what a woman looks like, and this is what a
Oh, like
handsome
it could just be
man's.
like a Gucci ad
Yeah,
in a magazine.
yeah, yeah. But
Like,
just like
oh, another
because,
embodiment of physical perfection.
yeah, like because we're inundated with that.
Hmm.
Do you think it's made people's standards too high?
I think so. I think also there's also this thing where since people can keep track on others,
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna wait until you perfect it, and then I'm interested. So it's like until you get the body I want, you might be a nice guy, but until you have that too, I'm not interested. So it's
Mm.
almost like the box checking thing where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you got two of the three. I know you can get the third if you work hard enough.
Yeah.
Once you get it, let me know. It's like
Interesting.
there's like these songs now coming out. It's like talk to me when you're rich.
Interesting.
And it's like, guys want to have
Yeah.
provide that, but it's like they may be slating through the period right now where they haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah.
But it's almost like what I see at least, it seems like the woman puts herself on this pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
She shows herself to get as much attention as possible,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like almost like a goddess.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, look at me, and
Mm-hmm.
if I don't give you your attention, you're beneath me. Don't speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna try to outdo all the other women to get the best guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not that guy, sorry, you don't get it. And then it's like all the guys are like, okay, well, what about like the, I don't want just someone to sleep with. I'd want a life partner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that we're talking about the hardship makes friendship.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no hardship that they have to go through, there might actually be a marriage.
Right.
So it might just be that the guy is the vending machine. Give me the
Mm-hmm.
car, give me the boat, give me the house, and I'll give you sex in return. And the guys are like, well, that's kind
You're
of
saying
disappointing.
it's actually men. You're saying you have seen men actually get frustrated because they feel as if the dating world's been turned into a very calculated exchange of goods.
Yeah.
That speaks to me of like that women are wounded because I think that at the end of the day, a healthy woman wants love, rich or poor. Like you want
Mm,
to be loved and you want to love. Like that's our deepest human desire is to love and be loved. And so if she's seeing a man as a vending machine, she must have had experiences with men that taught her to love and be loved by a man is dangerous. So you're going to use a man
mm,
for to live the best life you can live, right?
that makes sense.
Like that's not a healthy. That's not a natural uh, response for a woman. I don't think.
I think a lot of it too may play into just the unhealth that men are in right now. Because I don't know if you've heard, but like a 20-year-old now has the testosterone of a 60-year-old that our
Is
parents had.
a 60-year-old?
Yeah, so we're at like a third of the testosterone we should have.
Yeah.
And that really messes with guys
Mm-hmm.
because testosterone is what gives us that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that
Take some risks.
risk. It's like that crazy boyish playfulness that makes women go crazy. Like, why? That's so stupid, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, when you don't have testosterone or you don't feel good, you just don't want to do that stuff.
Mm.
Your automatic reaction is just sit down, like, oh,
Like we're
another
not
thing.
healthy. Yeah. Like men are not physically healthy.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it.
That's so interesting.
I think if men, cause like m- men are supposed to be very like full of vitality,
Mm-hmm.
and if they don't have that, they miss out on a lot of their personality, um, their gumption,
Mm-hmm.
their courage, I think. Because
Mm.
it's like there's dealing with so much inside of just like struggling to survive that they're like, oh, I can't add anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think it takes away that attractiveness from the woman if she's looking for the guys that have all of that
Mm-hmm.
and everything else.
Okay. I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I think that I think that a problem with young men that I see is a young men feel like women only are going to want them when they have those boxes checked. And maybe there's the few that are like that, like the vending machine women, let's call them. I think most women actually don't care as much as you think about you having the perfect job or the perfect like all your ducks in a row. They just they're if they see that you're a hard worker, that you're good, that you love them, that you're playful and fun, and you can give them attention, you can listen to them, you can make them feel special. Women want to feel special. You can make a woman feel special. Like And obviously, like, yeah, there needs to be some attraction there and everything else, but
Mm-hmm.
that's usually enough for a woman to go, yeah, let's do this. And then together we will build that life. You know, I think a lot more women are willing to jump in sooner than you realize. I've seen this with a lot of guys who go like, I got to figure out my life. I got to get like my good job. I got to get to a place where I can provide for a woman before I can even ask a girl on a date. And it's like, no, just, or even like I had a friend with some health issues. He was like, I don't want any woman to sign up for this. You know, this is too much to put on any person. And I was like, let the woman decide that. You're awesome. You're like funny and handsome and you know how to make a woman feel good. And like, that's, let the women be the one to say, this is too much for me. Don't make that decision for her. And so I think sometimes men lack confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a huge one. Like if a man is confident, I had this friend in college who was like kind of overweight and he was good looking. He had really nice blue eyes, and kind of, but like not like the hottest guy on campus at all. But he knew he had so many women after him because he knew how to look a woman in the eyes, ask her questions, tell her she was beautiful, like make her feel valuable and special. And he had like a line of women who were in love with him. And so it's like and he had confidence. He had total confidence in who he was. So much of that, and there's like an arrogant form of confidence that's off-putting, but there's a just a genuine, healthy confidence
Yeah.
that I think if a young man has, um,
Of a confidence that I see myself as good, so I want to share it.
yeah, yeah. And
Right.
I'm
What we see little kids wanting to do this, like, hey, dad, come look at this. Hey, mom, come look at this. Hey, friends of mine, come see this. This is so cool. This is good. I want to share it.
yeah,
If you actually see yourself as good, you want to share yourself.
totally, totally. And a big one is there's also men that are a little too much like, I want to share myself. I want to share myself. When it's like really the trick to getting a woman is, who are you?
Mm.
I'm desperately interested in who are you?
Yeah.
Tell me who you are. Share yourself with me. And I'm going to delight in that. And that is like arresting for a woman, you know, because the women are complicated. There's a lot that's under the surface, a lot of feelings and emotions and thoughts and ideas. And to open that, to let her, to allow her the ability to open that up, her world that's inside of her and share that, that means more than like the chiseled bod, you know, way more.
Mm.
I want to throw this out there, uh, but and then circle back to what
Yeah.
you're saying, which is, it sounds like to me you're saying that the confidence to share who you are in a way that at simultaneously shares an interest and excitement to get to know you is more alluring than certain physical traits.
Yes.
Okay. I have wondered for a while if the legends we tell have changed in the last generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if men see guys like Michael Jordan, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Brady, Bradley Cooper, the list goes on. And the legend around them is these men have so many women available to them,
Mm-hmm.
and any woman would say yes to them. And they're winners. They are really winners. And they're like at the top of their game.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if men have the experience of rejection by women. And yeah, it sucks to get rejected by a woman, and it sucks in the one-on-one experience of that. But I wonder if men are also being taught that that rejection is a message about you
Mm-hmm.
and how you're not like these other men that have been held up as legends. I mean, even Jordan Peterson, who seems to be trying to encourage men to be more uh, like more protagonists in this area. Even Jordan Peterson will say things like, "Oh, like if you're being rejected by women, that might mean that you don't really have something that they're looking for, which means you may not have enough to offer." So, like, and I think Jordan Peterson is trying to get to, all right, so get to work and get your act together so you have more to offer. But I can't help but wonder if, for some men, every rejection carries this message of you're not a winner. And so it's like you were talking before we went live. Like you have to get through the no's to get to the yes. But I wonder if are some men afraid of going through the no's because every no is a message, not that, yeah, you just haven't found the one that's a good fit for you. It's not that anything's wrong with you. It's just that you guys aren't a great fit. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I wonder if the message has been changed to every no is a message from the universe and you don't measure up. You could compare the legends that we tell today to legends we have of knights errant who they had some skills and they had bravery, but there was also a huge, immense task ahead of them. And that immense task was what gave them some of their worthiness. And so men listening to that legend could think of themselves as I'm on a mission and there's going to be struggles. Not if I'm struggling, it means I'm not a winner because winners are at the top and they enjoy the attention of whomever they wish.
Right. I think that's true. I think to rewind a tiny bit, you're talking about being constantly rejected. Okay, part of me thinks that the thing the man that needs to work on the most in that situation might actually be like playing the field a little bit better, like reading the signals. So just because a girl's pretty and seems like she's desirable doesn't mean you go in for the kill and be like, "What are you doing Saturday night?" You try to become their friend, and then and make it really safe, where she doesn't feel like, okay, I don't know this guy, and he might not be one of those winners in my mind that I'm going to say yes to. He's kind of like I don't know, and you have to play a game, a different type of game, where chocolate and roses and wine and all those things aren't actually really what get a woman's heart. Like those are nice, but that's not. Those are kind of cheesy, like cheesy romance. Don't just swoop in with cheesy romance. Just be her friend and show her what you have to offer, which is who you are, that confidence in who you are that you were talking about. I have something good to give you. And it's not, hey, what are you doing Saturday night? Because I want to date you. It's like, hey, uh, you got a minute? Let's chit chat. Like, can I get you a drink? Cool. Like, if you're at a gathering, okay, cool. Hey, what are you interested in? Tell me about this. Or just kind of slowly, okay, great. See you later. No asking for a date, leaving her with a little bit of guessing, like, hey, that was interesting. He chatted with me. He seemed like maybe he was interested, but I couldn't tell. I don't know. And there's another little thing where you kind of smile and say hi, or you go out of your way to say hi to her. But I feel like sometimes guys just go in too hard and then they get flat nose because they're going in too fast.
They haven't laid the groundwork.
Yeah. Where like, and then you got to read the signals because you might lay the groundwork, but then you still might be like, I don't get the sense that she's really feeling this. I get the sense that when I'm talking to her, she's got her eye on somebody else across the room or she's looking to get out of the conversation and like, okay, that's cool. Like that's your no without a flat rejection, without feeling like putting her in a position where she has to like let you down easy or say, oh yeah, I'm busy with my friends and or just like come up with some excuse or play that game. You kind of have to have your spidey sense out of is she letting off the signals of she's interested or not interested before you get to that point where you feel rejection because that's just human chemistry and I also I really do feel like there's there's a little bit of a legend or story we tell young men like you're saying of like this is how you date. You see a girl that looks attractive, You ask her on a date, you get her flowers, you whatever, you pick her up, you pay for the meal, like all this stuff. And that's like, that's actually, get rid of that. Just, just be nice. Like, just be awesome. Just smile. And then leave her guessing a little bit. The guessing is good. It's great when girls go home and go, oh my gosh, you guys, like, I don't know. Like, he said this, but then I wasn't sure. But then he was talking to this other girl. So I don't know if he likes her. Like, da-da-da. That is exciting for a girl to have a little bit of guesswork involved.
There's got to be something to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually the elusivity that we even have in that romantic relationship with God that we were talking about earlier of like, he's present, but he's not. Now he's not present. And what is this? It's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. It's a little bit of the hound. It's the whole thing of the being chased, but being pursued, but then it leaves you guessing and leaves you wanting a little more. It's always, that's the most romantic. Why are women so in love with Pride and Prejudice? Because Mr. Darcy, because there's so much buildup. There's so much buildup until like all the emotions are out there at the very end. Then it's over because then the drama's done.
Mm.
But the drama is the best part of like, I don't know. And oh, but now he's frustrating me. But now we just danced and it was kind of intense. And then it's, but then he did the stupid thing and I hate him again. Like all of that that is awesome. Like that's, you know,
She's never gonna love you if you don't make her hate you
yeah, no, no, no.
intermittently.
And the hating thing is not, that's besides the
No,
point. But my point is like the guesswork and the figuring it out and the cat and mouse thing is really something more to lean into
hmm.
than the direct.
Well, and so maybe that's what it maybe that's the trouble that you're mentioning about the online dating, Tom, is that like the platform is explicit, immediate
Yes.
attention.
Yes.
It's like so men can try to be protagonists. Hey, you seem interesting. I hope we connect.
Yeah, there's no way of,
And it's like you're saying, Hope, it seems to me that that's the easiest message to say no to.
yeah.
Like, oh, all right, another guy who's in love with me. Okay,
Yeah.
well, next.
Yep.
Until I find something that looks perfect.
Yes.
And so there's basically on the online experience has taken out the tug of war
Yeah.
that actually is the substance of
Yes.
human interaction.
Yes.
Well, and this is really interesting. That book I was telling you about, she was talking about the 4 levels of space. There's like 6 to 18 inches, 2 feet to 4 feet, 6 to 8, and then everything beyond.
Mm-hmm.
She said 6 to 8 is like professional, you can talk or not talk. 2 to 4 is friendship, and this is intimate.
Mm-hmm.
She said that if you want to start out as like not aggressive, like on a Zoom call, she was like, just sit back in your chair. Because you said if you're like this close on the camera, people like automatically back out to like, I don't know you well enough yet.
Yeah.
But on the phone, everyone takes pictures this close.
Mm.
So you're like, well, I don't know
Interesting.
you. There's no like coming to know you in
Yeah.
a distance, so like relationship like that.
Yeah.
So it's like they show you everything. You have to like show your cool upfront message. No.
Yeah.
But then in your mind, you're thinking, oh, what did I do wrong? It's like, well, maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe the approach wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that the online dating thing, the more this conversation is bringing out, like, it's just not ideal. Like, it might be a necessary evil, and I won't call it evil, but it's a lesser.
Yeah.
Ideally, you get out there. Even, you go to every single thing that you're invited to, go to it as a young person, like as a single person, I mean. Like, just get out there and be around people in real life.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's number one. And then if there's nothing there and you need to do online dating, you could do it, and it does work from time to time, but it's less ideal, in terms of playing that game because it takes out the art of the game.
That's it.
Takes out the
Yeah.
dance.
Mm-hmm. Takes out the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Mhm. We've stopped dancing and started swiping.
Yes. We stopped dancing and started
Right.
swiping. It's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's it. And it's sad because the dancing is kind of the best part. I mean, it's obviously all great, but in terms of just
The
your own story
excitement
of
and
romance,
yeah.
what's your story? Like, how did you find your wife? And tell me about that. And like that story, everyone loves to share that story. And if it's like we met online, then fine. At least you found each other, like you said, and you're living life together, and that's a good thing. But there's, the whole biblical narrative is one love story between God and man, and it look how long it is, from the beginning until Calvary.
All right.
It's a lot of foreplay right there.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, just looking back on it in college, I think
Or dancing. Go ahead.
a
That's
lot
You
of
can say foreplay.
Okay.
yeah,
It's fine.
there's I think like almost every young person that experiences a dance, like you almost fall in love with the person you had the best dance with that night,
Mm.
and you're like,
Mm.
this is so cool.
Oh, that's so
Or
sweet.
like when you're seeing your friends all dressed up and all their makeup on, you're just like, wow.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know
And
you were
then
so beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, and then you're like, all the guys, you're like, okay, up the game. Like
Yeah.
let's take this to the next level, and they want that too. It's like
Yeah.
I saw so many times at dances, like girls that just were out of it and not having a fun time.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's at least mosh. Like, let's
Yeah.
get all you together. Like, there were multiple times where like 8 girls together. I was like, let's just all mosh together. Like,
That's
that'd be
really
better
funny.
than just standing in the
I
corner.
love that. I love that you're like making everyone mosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. I remember Father Buckley is this priest at GAC, and um, my friend Father Michael told me the story, but he was good friends with him, and he said that women would come to him and be like, "Father, what can I do?" He's this old kind of holy, but like just frank, awesome priest, and like, "Father, what can I do? Like, I'm looking for a husband, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to be holy. I'm trying to pray. I'm trying to figure this out. Like, and he said, well, a little lipstick would help. And he's just like just funny, just like, but basically like get in there, play the game a little, like it's okay. It's actually good, make yourself beautiful and dance.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Human love is a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the greatest mistake we have adopted to some degree is
Mhm.
that human love is lesser. Well, not sorry. Human love is not the love of God. So it is lesser. But
Mhm.
somehow we've bastardized that
Mhm.
truth into human love. It should be something we only accept as a necessity.
Mhm.
Like it
Mhm.
should, since it's a lesser good, it should only be a practical good.
Mhm.
So get married because we need to have children
Mhm.
and certain impulses need to have a direction. So yeah,
That's Puritan. That's not Catholic.
that and I agree with you,
Mhm.
but I think that has entered the cultural
Totally.
mean.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Human love is an icon of God's love for us, and it's also a portal, which icons are supposed to be portals, like windows into that love.
Yeah.
So there's so much to explore there, and I think that's actually one of the branches of the church that has yet to be grown,
That
and
has yet to flower.
it's just this exploration of and it has been explored, but there's more to explore. And the cool thing is, as a married person, I find a lot of beauty and joy in exploring that. Like how holy is the sacrament of marriage? How holy is sex? Like Hollywood tells you that it's this thing, and that's all you see. And then you get married, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna engage in having sex with my husband, but what is? It's not that. It has to be something else. The church tells me this is holy, and exploring that as a sacrament is so exciting and beautiful. And beyond, outside of the bedroom, obviously too, but just like the day to day, the love, the support, the fidelity, um, the leaning on one another, that intimacy, that the breath of God, how God breathes his life into man. That's what makes us different than all of creation, is that breath of God. And that intimacy that you're speaking of, where you can actually be that close, where you can receive the other person's breath. I mean, that's as intimate as you can get. And that's what you do with really your spouse. You know, you get that close and that intimate. But I think that's exciting. I think that's an exciting thing for our church to explore and for married people to explore. I don't know if you guys read, how do I say it? I don't speak Latin and I'm not very good at it. Amator Laetitia? Is that right? The Joy of Love? Pope Francis, again. Everyone freaked out.
Laetitia is correct.
Is that right? Amator, it's something, just the Joy of Love.
Mhm.
Come on, Latin people. Come on.
I'm trying to think of the correct
Amator, I
correct
don't know how to say
formulation
it.
of the
Okay, his encyclical
amor part.
on the Joy of Love, on married life. And everyone freaked
Amoris Laetitia?
Amoris Laetitia.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
it.
I
You got
didn't
it.
think there was a T in there.
Okay, good. You got it. Good job.
Yeah.
Everyone was freaking out over the footnote, you know, divorced Catholics receiving communion. And I just was like, I got to read this because I was so sick of everyone bashing Pope Francis for everything all the time. And I realized there's like legit things to be concerned about, but I also wanted to read it for myself and see things for myself. And so I read that encyclical and it was so awesome. Like it's so beautiful. I think it's phenomenal. I got a great thing for people to read because it really does highlight how beautiful human love is, you know, and how it's so good. And it's like God's first gift to man, you know? Anyway,
Are we preventing you from getting back to Georgia?
I probably should go.
I'm afraid that
probably should go.
we could keep talking, but
I know.
it would amount
This
to
is fun.
keeping you away from the 2-month-old, the very
guys-
playful
Yeah.
2-month-old.
Do you guys edit this? No, you don't. It's just what it is. Okay. Great.
Does that sound good to you?
Sure.
Okay.
I was just wondering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. This was fun.
Well, Hope, yes, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure. Come back soon.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Bless you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.